FIFA 2020 has a serious bug problem, so big in fact that it won't even get fixed in the upcoming patch. Building a career as a professional footballer might actually be easier than putting up with this bloody game. Here to talk about this travesty with me is, as always, Mr. Gareth Evans. How are you doing, sir?
Good, thank you.
Ready to talk some football, some sports?
Absolutely, mate. Kick it in the net, innit? Let's score the goal.
Do you know what football is? That doesn't sound like it with that bloody voice. What we're talking about is FIFA 2020, which launched late last week on Friday the 27th of September, and as often happens with these games as a service type games, you don't get a fully fixed, fully running, fully operational product. Oh no.
Surprise, surprise, it was trash at launch.
You'd think people will have learned by now, but apparently some people still buy it. That will always be beyond me. But the particular mode in question, among its numerous problems as a product, is career mode, and that's the game's single player mode where you essentially role play as a team manager and you build your team, whole little career. You develop individual players as a football manager.
It's like the single player mode of it, like the career mode. There's no online component to it. You're just the manager and you manage your team, which is quite a popular mode for a lot of people. And there are a lot of modes in FIFA. There's now like 12 modes or whatever. FIFA Ultimate Team obviously being the most popular one. But a lot of people buy FIFA for different reasons. Now, with the fact that career mode is such a big part of it for a lot of people, obviously a lot of people are not happy that it's like buggy and doesn't work properly right now.
A lot of people will buy it just because they want a top quality football simulator. They won't touch any of the disgusting FIFA Ultimate Team packs, which we'll touch on in a minute, and to be honest, everyone knows what a shit show that is. They just want a good football game, and FIFA's probably the best one around, according to a lot of the reviews anyway. But the career mode is a proper, almost role-playing game in a weird way, because you can go to press conferences and have kind of dialogue options, which is weird. But the game has a whole load of bugs, which are listed in a very long list on Reddit. Not all of these are bugs, some of them are just personal gripes, like the conferences being really boring and repetitive, and I wouldn't necessarily call that a bug, it's just not very well designed. But some of the bugs include opponent team AI, so good teams in the real world are at the bottom of the leaderboards and they're just performing really weird, and even on the hardest difficulty you can still win 4, 5, 6, 7-0 with no trouble. Editing your players can result in them changing position. Player stats can drop despite their performance, so if you win a bunch of games they can still go down for no real reason. The maximum height for created players is only 6'2", and that is personally offensive to me because I am 6'3", thank you very much. I shan't be buying this game because I can't create a character who looks just like me. It will just be a 1-inch shorter version, and that's not something I'm willing to stand for. And then there's little things like in-game typos, which just suggest that this, as one would expect from a FIFA game, it was rushed out the door. No one really checked it as thoroughly as they should have, because typos is an easy thing to fix. You just look at it, is it wrong? You change it, you tweak the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, that's indicative of them just copying and pasting it. I mean,
exactly.
So, these yearly iteration games, we talked about it in NBA 2K20 recently, where they had like advertising hoardings in-game from the previous game, and also the icon for on the desktop was from the previous game. They hadn't taken the time to pay attention to these small details, which you have to do if you're charging $60 every single year for a bloody next game, and you've just copied and pasted some shit.
One comment I did like on this Reddit post was from a guy called Shane_Solo, who said, "More input and less witch hunt, boys. We know that EA is going to be more sensitive on their own forums, but I know for a fact that they do read FIFA and FIFA careers. Keep it civil while damning the man." Which I like, because he's clearly upset and clearly very bothered, but he's encouraging people to not be toxic, which I like, which is a good way to send this conversation, because there's a lot of very angry people, and quite rightly so, to be honest, but just don't be cancerous and toxic.
I mean, it's fine to get upset about things, but as we always say on this channel, it's not fine to go personally attacking the people developing, the community managers and the people behind the game. These people are just doing a job. They have a mandate from above, whatever you don't like about the game, it's that way for a reason, and it's not these individual people's fault. Also, just being total trolls and like abusing people on Twitter and stuff like that, it isn't productive at all, and it allows them to characterize the communities in such a way which validates their bad behavior in the first place. They can just say, oh, it doesn't matter what we've done, look what these guys are saying about us, and that is just not the way to get things fixed.
Exactly. And one of the people who will be bearing the brunt of a lot of these criticisms is a guy called Corey Andres, who's the global franchise lead for the whole of the FIFA brand, gaming-wise, obviously. And he posted a lengthy 9-tweet-long thread addressing a number of problems and kind of establishing where they all stand on everything. And one key one is that he says, being that career mode is client-based, offline, we need to patch. Patches take time, as fixes have to be identified, fixed, tested, and then certified by first party. A Are those patches on the way and locked? So likely we've missed the ability to put CEM fixes in that patch. So a key thing to take out there is that they've already got a patch on the way. That's good news. It's good to see your games being updated quickly, but not career mode. They're putting that on the back burner, and that's probably because it doesn't make a whole load of money.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to look at it. I mean, if you read this 9 Twitter post response, I mean, I like this response. It is, he's a community manager. You'd expect this from him. You expect some sort of response, but the fact that he's gone into depth, and we'll talk about the other community manager response in a short while too, and again, it's in depth, and I personally like how they've approached it here. Basically, he said that he's aware of the problems, but the ETA on the fixes, they can't provide it because basically, in summary, it's a single player mode that needs to be fixed in the client rather than the online on the servers. There were some criticism that they quickly fixed the transfer market issues at launch, and for those of you who weren't aware, when the game launched, the transfer market was down like literally overnight from the 26th to the 27th for like a 6-hour period or whatever. As it was unlocking on people's like consoles, the transfer market was down for like the first 5 hours. People were not happy, but they fixed it quickly. The criticism is like, you fixed that very quickly. Why don't you fix the career mode as quickly? And he did address this in one of his tweets. He says, I want to address the narrative around last night's transfer market and how we can fix that quickly versus patches. This is based on the fact that outages on online services are server-based. Server hotfixes can be done quickly based on the fix and identifying the issue. It's just an indication there of it would be easy to get ahead of yourself and get annoyed that they're not fixing career as quickly as the rest of it. But when you look at the technicality of fixing the career mode, it's not as easy because you have to roll out patches, you have to test the patches, because once you implement some fixes, that might disrupt some other part of the code and you might be creating bugs. So you've got to test them and then before you put them out. It's a lot more long-winded process, but it's just the fact is that he's come out and he's clarified all this. I like, because what that does is it dispels some of the anger because people can understand why things are happening the way that they're doing. And that's what, in general, the way that I like them to do it. I like them to be open and transparent so that we can understand the reasoning behind the issues, and so that dispels people's anger.
My biggest question is, how is this even a problem in the first place, especially because it's a single player thing, so you don't have the option to just as easily update it as you do an online thing. This mode should have been thoroughly tested and fixed if there were problems to begin with, and there's just no excuse for it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, this game should have been fit for purpose when it launched, and we always say that in this game, and what I just said is kind of in contrary to that, but not really, because if you think about it like this, right, we totally don't condone the fact the game is in a shit state when it gets released. Like, we all accept that. However, the response that this personal guy has made by being open and transparent, I like, right? So there's a bad thing there, as in the game is launched in a shit state. We shouldn't forgive him for that. That's EA as a company, though. It's not this guy's fault. Yeah. And secondly, this guy's response, I like. So it's a bad thing and a good thing. And we should always distinguish between what is good and what is bad, so that we don't sound like we're just complaining no matter what they do. I think that what this guy's done and the response that he's had is good. That doesn't condone the state that the game was in to launch.
There's a good point made along that thread by a guy called Stuart Love, who said there would be an instant fix if it was FUT, which means FIFA Ultimate Team. And then there was a response from someone else explaining the online nature of it. But I do think that is a good point to be made, because FIFA Ultimate Team is their main moneymaker. Last fiscal year, it made up 28% of EA's total revenue, whereas FIFA sales, just retail of the game, made just 14%. So that makes it literally double what the base game sales make. So even with the ease of being able to do online fixes versus offline fixes, it makes so much more sense for them to prioritize the FIFA Ultimate Team, because that's the way they make all their money, and they don't additionally monetize career mode. The career mode is more or less safe from the toxic monetization.
That's true, but the question for fans of career mode is, like, what do you do? Like, how do you get them to prioritize the game mode that you want? And the only answer to that is just don't buy the game. If you impact that 14% of revenue that they make just off sales of the game, if you impact that and send a message to them, don't buy the game at launch. You know it's going to be it's a game as a service, right? You know it's going to be shit at launch. So this is how we can get the message across to them without having to get upset with them. Yeah. Just wait a few weeks after launch until everything's ironed out, and to see clearly what state the game is launching in before you buy it, before you pre-order it. But lo and behold, this is FIFA after all, and they're just going to sell shitloads every year, no matter what I say.
Yep. And people really aren't happy about these problems. Now, on Metacritic, the game currently sits at around a 79 critic score on PS4, which is reasonable. The user score, not so much. That is 1.3 based on 500 392 ratings, so lots of people are very angry. That's 23 positive reviews, 11 mixed reviews, and 336 negative, and that's all, of course, at the time of recording. Lots of complaints about nothing in the game changing, it's just being like a reskin of the old ones, and I guess if the game doesn't change, neither do the complaints, but career mode is mentioned absolutely everywhere. There's dude from Iceland who gave it a 0, just fix career mode in all caps. Mazmamat, who also gave it 0, the career mode is utterly broken and has game-breaking bugs throughout. Then British K, who also gave it a 0, career mode is broken, and they go on and on and on and on. People aren't happy, and EA really needs to step up when this patch is coming out, or at least give people a date. And I know it's, as we said, it's easier said than done given that it's an offline thing, but they need to make sure that's their priority.
Yeah, it would be easy for people to criticize FIFA as just another copy and paste. Yeah, it's just another iterative thing. They're just cashing in year on year, but they have introduced a few new things this year. A Volta Football being the main one, which is the street soccer game mode, and it's
like a semi-narrative driven.
Yeah, the narrative driven portion of the game. Obviously, we don't play the game. You can sell that. They've also introduced house rules for FIFA Ultimate Team and friendly matches now, where you can like basically choose what rules you want. You can play in the different rules. Only score with headers and volleys, for example. You can lose a player every time you score, and the goals outside the box count as double. That kind of thing. So that's quite refreshing. You can play with different rules. They've also revamped set pieces and defending. So to level a criticism at them that they're not introducing enough year on year, based on what they have introduced this year, is a bit of a moot point really. What they are doing this year is they're completely neglecting the old game types, which is the career mode, right? It's been around for a few years now, and they just haven't put enough attention into it, and that's the main gripe for people. But they have responded in a lengthy forum post over on the FIFA forums, and this is the EA community manager G Zaro, and he posted this on Saturday after the original response on Twitter from Corey Andreas, and he goes through a list of issues point by point. And it's important to note that it's not just the career mode issues that he addressed here. He addressed the Ultimate Team issues, the general gameplay issues, and also the Volta issues too. But talking about specifically on the career mode, it's obviously the biggest portion of the forum post. He says the team's working hard, so I'll just go through them quickly now, all the points that he's addressed. So the first problem, AI teams stressing low OVR rated lineups in inappropriate situations. So first off, currently investigating a fix, whatever that means to be. Next issue, when the AI is in control of top teams, they are sometimes appearing low on the table, occasionally even being relegated. Currently investigating his response again. Improvements to the CM scheduling algorithms to avoid match congestion. He said that they'd fixed this from FIFA 19 because it was originally a problem, but they broke it again when they made the change late in the development cycle. So again, investigating a fix for that one. Next up, press conferences asking questions about things that aren't relevant to the save, asking about relegation when finishing in the top 4, etc. He said that this is a new feature in career mode, the press conferences, and there are some issues that have been found by our players that we were unable to find during the development cycle. So basically, they didn't test it enough.
Which is exactly what we talked about earlier.
That's true. And he finishes up taking in the feedback, just like they always do. Next up, after a few seasons of career mode, the UEFA Europa League and UEFA Champions League competitions are not working correctly. He says they've identified the root cause and are fixing it in a future update. No word on when the update is coming. Next issue, editing players is resulting in those players having their positions changed. They're currently working on a fix for that. Dynamic potential seems to be resulting in some unrealistic scenarios where some players in bad form are going up in the ratings, while some players, such as some that are aged 29 or 30, are declining in ratings despite their performance. Now he says that basically dynamic potential is this new thing that they've implemented, and this is just how it works now. Form isn't the only factor in stats increasing or decreasing, right? So he says, generally speaking, younger players will get better and aging players will decline. But also he said, having said that, they want to collect more feedback, and they've created a feedback thread for this specific thing on the forum. So it's basically, this is just our game now. This isn't a bug. This is how it works. So even if an old player is playing well, he might decline in his stats regardless, because he just gets old.
He's old. Yeah. He's a hip replacement.
Comes to the best of us. And lastly, ultimate difficulty seems to be easier than in previous years. Are you doing anything to address this? Currently investigating. No acknowledgement of any issues there. They're just investigating it. So in summary, for me, I just like the way that the community managers have responded in this instance, and we're all very quick to criticize EA, and rightfully so. The game should never been released in this state. However, the depth and the detail that they've gone to with these responses, I think, is refreshing, and I think that it will dispel a lot of the anger and lead to a lot more understanding in the player base as to what issues that these devs are facing and why things are the way they are, because it's easy to jump to conclusions and get angry because of that. It's not very often that you see these type of responses from developers. You think about the NBA 2K situation, they don't even hire community managers. They don't have community managers. Everyone's pissed off to shit about everything, right? But there's nobody there responding to them and trying to smooth that over and trying to explain things. But at least in EA's case here, I like to give them a little bit of credit. I like to give everyone credit where it's due. The viewers might not agree with me. You might just slate them for everything, but that's up to you. I will give them a little bit of credit for the way that these community managers have, not EA, I'll take that back. I won't give EA any credit. I'll give these community managers credit for doing a good job.
See, part of me likes that they've gone through each individual criticism and given it an individual response, but another part of me is like, well, every time they say, currently investigating, we're working on a fix, that doesn't mean anything. It rings hollow until they actually do something or can provide specifics.
Well, I've just summarised what he said there. He didn't just say currently investigating. I've just pulled that from
exactly.
But he's obviously he smoothed it over with a lot more fluff.
And that's exactly it. It kind of makes it even more fluffy and hollow, but at the same time, at least it's something. At least it's
a conversation.
It's a dialogue that's happening between the development team and the players, the people who are putting their money into this product. But anyway, that is just what we think about the latest FIFA drama. I knew that coming towards the end of last week that this week would start good because FIFA was out, baby. But let us know down in the comments what you think. Have you picked up FIFA 20? Are you a devout career mode player, or are you one of these FIFA Ultimate Team things? Make sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button and the bell. Go on over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming to support us and the content we create. We'll see you again soon. I've been Henry. He's been Gaz. Bye for now.